civilian shooters how long you've been shooting, because they will think you're lying.
Right.
You know,
so we just went live, by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah,
a soft live.
Yeah, cool. So
yeah, it's awesome. It's nice watching shooters just kind of roll into it and embrace the joy of shooting sports and kind of relax. Probably 60-70% of the shooters we see in Maple Seed are very uptight. They want that patch, which is completely the opposite thing to be thinking about, because you're not thinking about anything else.
Yeah, so that's right. You start thinking about failure pretty quick.
Exactly. Yeah. You're thinking about the objective as opposed to the process, which is a recipe for potential disaster. Not always, but it eats at you. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Rick. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi there.
I'm just going to share the countdown. I don't want people to think we've already started, so we still got 2 minutes to go.
So,
have you? Do you know Ben from Sierra64?
No, I can't say we've met.
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah.
Rick and I we were just chatting about it. We tripped across each other, kind of singing the same tune on Gun Nuts probably 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they came out here out west, I jumped on and went on one of their first events out here. Rick and you guys and what I'm trying to do, especially with fundamentals, is very much the same thing.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty cool. Yeah. And Kevin's one of those much hated natural shooters. I mean, he works at it too, but he doesn't get caught up. He doesn't get caught up in all the gear. He just says, he doesn't do ammo tests because I buy whatever everyone else is shooting and shoots well. And he just shoots well, and he just focuses on fundamentals, and that's
imagine
awesome.
that.
I know.
I wouldn't say I don't focus on gear.
You like shooting nice gear like everybody else, but you don't use it as a way to move up or move ahead, right? Do you? Maybe you do.
Oh, I think I do. I just don't think a $3,000 rifle puts you ahead of somebody with $1,000 rifle.
Yeah, right.
But where there's I think a pump pillow, for example, or let's go super basic. A shooting bag is very valuable and is essential. It is well worth the investment.
Right.
And that's the very minimum. We can go into my crutch there, which is the tripod, but
yeah. But the shooting bags you use, are they homemade or are they bought? Right. You shot with homemade for a while.
Yeah, I shot. Homemade, still homemade. I've never bought a bag.
Exactly. So that's the gear, right? So that's the thing. You recognize. Oh, it looks like we got to go live now. All right, stand by, guys. We're going to. Oops, hang on. Oh, wrong button. We're going to start the intro, and then we'll go live and get this kicked off. Stand by. Hey, welcome to the Rimfire Nation Podcast, episode 23. We want to be your one-stop shopping experience for all things Rimfire in Canada. This week, we have the great pleasure and honor of welcoming Ben Klick from Sierra64 Riflecraft, a man who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. So, Ben, thank you for coming out and joining us to share these much-needed words of advice to shooters new and experienced, or a different perspective on what they can do or what they should be focusing on. So thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity, Rick. We were just saying before we went live how what you guys have been teaching, what I'm working with fundamentals when I'm teaching is very much the same thing. And we just had a discussion about the relative importance of gear. And it really is fundamentals that separate those who succeed and win from those who are there just to shoot.
Yeah, that's it. We were talking about Kevin. He's a cool, calm shooter, right, Kevin? You don't get flustered, right?
I just don't talk about it. You
just don't talk about it.
Well,
but that's key though. The minute you vocalize that, then it becomes real, right? So if you're able to keep it from sending it out there, then it's good. So, but before we get to you, we're going to talk about what's new and what has arrived at Tesro.ca, the proud sponsor of the Rimfire Nation Podcast. So let's jump over and see what's new. So Tesro is doubling down on the CZ4 557s and 527s. I think we talked about last week in Centerfire 30865 Creedmoor 223. I had a chance to see some of these live and in person, and they are gorgeous, gorgeous rifles. I also picked up my CZ P9 Cadet from Asmir over the weekend with my extra mags for the Rimfire race guns. And last episode, we also talked about reloading. Kevin, this is where you discovered that 223 has a potential return into your life with
maybe
the heavy for caliber bullets that could be the ticket. I'd love to.
And actually, Asmir has the 88 grain Hornady.
I know.
ELDM or ELDM.
LDM, yeah. So I'm thinking that we should partner up, because I think I've got a good base rifle to get into this, and I think 223 would be the way to go. Mm-hmm. So check out Tesro.ca for all your reloading needs, as well as your precision shooting needs, Delta Optics, and a whole host of others. And check out the CRKT line as well, which I picked up my latest, which is, where is it? It's the Dually. It's kind of a, where is it?
I like how you know exactly where it is on the website.
I do peruse. I can't find it now. Anyway, it's a bottle opener in closed form, and then a small pocket knife when deployed. So it was pretty cool. And then I think about CRKT, and I keep saying it's a good quality knife at a very decent price. So that's it. So back to you, Ben. So Ben, tell us your background. Tell us your story. Tell us how you got to be the Zen master of shooting.
Well, one of the key things, Rick, one of the keys to success is to simply outlast and outlive all your competition. So you're the kind of the last guy standing. It's working for me so far. But no, I would say my name is Ben, and I'm a lifelong serious student of the rifle. It has been 9 days since I fired my last live round, but I dry fired this morning, and it was awesome. I had a really good dry fire session this morning.
That's good.
So I'm Ben Klick. I teach with my company out here near Edmonton, Alberta, Sierra64 Riflecraft. And our whole goal is very similar to what you guys do with Maple Seed, and that is to produce better shots. We talk about firing perfect shots on demand and under pressure. We're kind of a custom training outfit. Whatever the students want is what we do. And as we said just before we went live, it's a lot of fundamentals. This next class in August 7th is I let the students pick again, and it's another fundamentals class, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
So my comic book backstory is I was a farm boy who joined the Army to avoid manual labor and the outdoors. Joined the infantry, where I did manual labors in the outdoors. And when I joined the Army, I'm like, oh, they're going to teach me to be mentally tough. They're going to teach me mental strength, right? It's be awesome. And they're like, oh, you got to be strong. You got to be tough. I'm like, cool, boss. Like, details. And never really came. So I went through all the infantry training, went through jump course, same thing. Oh, you're going to fall out of an airplane. You got to be mentally strong. Same thing, sniper and Pathfinder course. It's like, oh, you require mental toughness. I'm like, great. How do we do that? And then I was fortunate enough to get on a competitive service rifle team with my continued to be mentor, Keith Cunningham. And Keith introduced something called mental management. And I had run across some of the ideas before, but Keith put it into a very concrete form and taught us how to use it. He gave us mental tools in the toolbox, individual mental skills, habits, and attitudes that we adopted not just on the competitive shooting field, but in every area of our life. And I've carried on with that after the military. I spent just shy of 20 years. I got a couple deployments as a sniper, and after the military, I was finding I liked helping people more than I did shooting. Which, like we were just talking about that too. We get a bigger kick out of that than actually pressing the trigger ourselves sometimes. And it was actually out on the range, and this guy showed up, and he literally had a scope in one hand and a rifle in the other. And I'm like, oh man, you see those guys come to the range, you just want to go help. So I ended up spending about 4 hours with this guy.
Nice.
And afterwards he's like, can I pay you for this? Like, I'm a really fast learner. So I'm like, yes. So I'm like, okay, it dawned on me that maybe I could, pay for this. And I've been fortunate enough to be doing it for about 5 years now. And work with military, police, and civilian shooters, and focus, like I said, mostly on fundamentals. But we do wind, kestrel, position shooting, field firing, precision hunter. We have done, and I have excellent pistol and carbine instructors. But we tend to find that most of our interest now is precision rifle, scoped rifle, and a growing amount of rimfire precision rifle. So it's
nice.
And as you know, the more you teach, the more you learn.
And that's
so
true.
And now I've just started ELR, extreme long range, because I hate money. Yeah. So that and the biggest thing I'm learning about ELR is doubly so the fundamentals count.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's where I am now.
That's a slippery slope to get into. It's like,
it's not addicting at all.
No, not at all. Just what you need. More ways to spend your money. Hey, Matt, welcome. Glad you could make it.
Hey, Matt.
Thank you. Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Matt.
Yeah. So where do you normally start when like a brand new shooter comes saying, look, I'm brand new to the sport. Where do I start? What do you break down for them? They've got the rifle, they've got the box of ammo, and they say, I want to shoot better. What am I working toward? How do I know what it feels like? Right. And that's a question that we get, that we're trying to solve at Maple Seed. But I'd love to hear kind of your, help me. I'm a new guy. I know nothing. Where do I start?
Yeah. Well, there's two parts to that answer that I have, is that the first question is I phrase it as, what is the tool for? And the second part is shooting is 10% physical.
Right.
So we help people define their goals, and often that may not be well defined. So we help them. It can be something as nebulous as perfect shots on demand under pressure, and that's a great general goal. Some people may be interested in precision hunter, where they're like, hey, I got to be able to make a shot onto a 10-inch kill zone of a deer under field firing conditions, again, on demand under pressure, out to 300 meters.
Right.
Some people may be, I want to be able to shoot successfully on all the steel plates on my range out to, I think we've got 800 or 900 meters at Chaz. But generally we help them define their goal, and then we go heavily into fundamentals, just like you guys do at Maple Seed.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. I think a lot of people that we find that are frustrated have unrealistic goals, or that they haven't set any, and they kind of get sucked into what everyone else's goals are. So I think that's a good point. And say, guys, when you're going to a competition or doing anything with firearms related, figure out what your objective is. If it's just to have fun, that's awesome. But you've got to adjust your attitude to fit. And if you're a competitor, you've got to set realistic objectives of saying, well, right now my first match is going to be my benchmark to find out where I am based on my skill set that I bring to the table that day. And then you slowly, incrementally add things that help you move forward, maybe not upward, but just forward. I'm not going to time out, or I'm going to get one extra shot on that stage. So I think that's setting the goals is a big step in helping people get better, I think, like you said. And I never thought about asking people, what's your goal today? As a new shooter, maybe that's a great question to ask. What do you hope to get out of today? Which we do at Maple Seed, but we don't do it at the competitions when I welcome people at the registration. So,
that's a great question. And the better we define our goals, the better we define them ahead of time, and the better we document our process after, the more we are likely to repeat that, and the more likely we are to reach those goals.
Yeah. And all the staffers on this podcast, their goal is to beat everybody else on the podcast.
Yeah. But it's a tough goal to have.
I know.
Because it's entirely dependent on the other people's performance.
I know.
And that's one of those things you can't control.
I know. It's not looking good for you this year.
Yeah, it's I always when we talk about the mental side, like I said, that we talk about the fundamentals, and we start them with what good with a rifle, what correct looks and feels like.
Right.
Now, there's no one textbook answer, because we all have different geometry and we all have different geography of our bodies.
Correct.
So what's going to work for you is not going to work for me, is not going to work for Matt or Kevin. It's different because of different body limitations and body abilities.
Right.
But we help them find what good looks and feels like with a rifle in the first day. Very, very similar to what you guys do. We break it down into the nuts and bolts, just like you guys do. And we get into what is our left fingers doing? What's our controlling hand doing? What does a head feel like when it's correct on the stock? What is correct blood pressure? So we give them that, and then we teach them. I mean, in training, where you've got an instructor and a program and stuff you're going to cover that day, that's training. The only thing we can really teach is what and how to practice.
Right.
So we teach them what good looks and feels like, and then we teach them how to practice. And at least the last half hour of our first training session every training session goes into homework. And you leave with you leave one of our sessions with a month's worth of a calendar and some goals and a month's worth of homework, because that practice phase, of course, is where we actually cement the learning.
Exactly.
We've all been to conferences or courses or sessions where it's like, oh yeah, at the end of the day, this is awesome. And then a month later, it's like, what were we doing? So we teach them how to practice.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to take your course a couple of years ago, and that homework, that binder that you provided is awesome. And it's still part of my prep on a regular basis. So I think that that goes a long way toward maintaining and cementing those. Again, you always forget a little bit of what you hear, and you only can replay a little bit of what you heard. So that book, moves that bar much higher, because it's all there, and it follows kind of the material. So that's an awesome takeaway, or as a remembrance or homework, like you said, just keeps it top of mind. So
absolutely. And it captures what we learn, because like I couldn't even tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, let alone what my takeaways were from like this podcast. When I'm done, I can't see that, it's a yellow sheet. When I'm done, I'll spend about 15 minutes doing a solution analysis and a success analysis of what went well and what to do better next time. Because like 20 minutes from now, I'm going to be like squirrel. I won't remember. So that's one of the important parts, and that's why that binder is actually called a performance journal. Because journaling is such a huge part, and that's usually what we hit on the second class when we get into mental management. So we get people pressing triggers correctly. We get them doing the marksmanship fundamentals, but we also get the mental program. When we do anything really well, it's not because we're trying. It's when we just know how to do it, where our subconscious has developed enough skill through correct repetitions, and we just let that come out. We let that happen, and we teach part of the mental management is the mental skills of kind of setting the monkey mind aside, that busy mind that can only think of one thing and has a really short attention span, about that long. We set that conscious mind aside, and we teach how to bring the subconscious out, so you can fire a subconscious shot. And you all know what it's like, where you look at the target and your subconscious recognizes the correct body position, sight picture, sight alignment, and it just presses the trigger for you. And that's the goal of the subconscious shot. So we go heavily into the other 90% of shooting, which is the mental management, and people go home with some ideas, habits, and attitudes that are going to allow them to develop those mental skills. And that's the start. It's like meeting your crack dealer. It's like the first one is easy. After that, it's entirely addictive. So
Now, do you guys have a high round count initial course? No, exactly.
No, we don't. I tell people to bring 80 rounds. And the reason I tell them to bring 80 rounds is because if I tell them to bring 40, they will go and buy 2 boxes, shoot them all, and have no practice ammo. and less likely to go to that extra step of purchasing more ammo than actually getting to practice. So I tell them bring 80, and you may fire less than 40 is what I'll say. Right. You'll fire less than 40 the first day, but you're going to make every one of those rounds absolutely count, and they're all going to be as perfect as you can make them. Right. Because it's really only correct repetitions that count.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's awesome. Super important we do it right. So we spend a lot of time preparing people through dry fire and visualization and the mental program, where they visualize the shot, the proper correct shot happens in their like you actually close your eyes, visualize, happens in your mind, you imagine it, and that preloads it into your subconscious. Then you fire the perfect shot physically, and then for the third shot in this mental program, you fire that shot again perfectly in your imagination. So you preload with an imagined perfect shot, you fire a perfect shot physically, and then the third is either replay the perfect shot, right, or if it didn't quite go how you intended, then you can rewrite it. You immediately overwrite that bad repetition with a good one. And I always say the nice thing about this is I'm perfect in 2 out of 3 shots when I do this. I know at least 2 out of the 3 shots are going to be amazing. Yeah, and I enjoy them to the max.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. A lot of people underestimate the power of visualization, and that rewind, that review, and that perfect practice, leads to perfect results. I think that's
absolutely true.
That's what a lot of people think. I'm just going to keep shooting and shooting and shooting. They spend hundreds, if not thousands, of rounds downrange hoping to be a better shooter, when really it would have taken a fraction of that to become a much better shooter faster if they just took the time and visualized that. What it's supposed to feel like. But it's hard, for someone who doesn't know what it's supposed to feel like. And like you said, you spend time with new shooters getting to understand how much of your head weight should be on your rifle. The question is, the answer is all of it. Yeah, it's consistency. Yeah. Consistency is key. So
yes.
Right. Oh, Kevin, I don't know if you guys have any questions or comments.
No. Well, it's funny. You were saying it's like thousands of rounds later. It's like, maybe I could have saved myself a couple of rounds.
But it is fun, though. Don't underestimate the fun factor.
I think 22 thousands of rounds in the last 2 years. I must be up 30,000 now, 35,000 maybe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of bullets. So.
Yeah, but you're getting results.
I mean, here's the thing. Like Ben said, if I'm doing it wrong, I'm doing it wrong correctly, because it seems to be working. It's like
it seems to be working.
It seems to be working. I just started playing golf. I talked about this on the last podcast. My form is atrocious. Like, I'm not gonna lie. People have told me how to hold your club and do all that. I don't really do any of it because I can't make it happen, and I don't have an instructor with me at all times to correct me in that. I don't have 2 hours to go on YouTube and watch every night to try to tune my position. So I just do it and every time I do it, kind of like what you're saying is I put my hand in a specific spot and I see what it does, and then I try it. And then I try it 5 times and I see, does something happen? Did it make it better or worse? Yes or no, and then anyway, so it's kind of the same way I learned how to shoot was through that trial and error process of, did it work or didn't it work?
Yeah. The error and trial method is long and painful.
Yeah.
And I have an unreasonable prejudice against golf, and I'm also horrible at it.
Yeah.
I would tell the story, like a friend of mine took me to the driving range, and same deal. I'm out there with my stick, and I hit myself with my own ball twice on the driving range. So if I was going to learn to, if I hated myself and I wanted to go and learn golf, I would go and I'd find the local club pro and learn what good felt and looked like first, and save myself a lot of time, money, and frustration.
Yeah.
But as much as I hack on golf, justifiably so, I also recognize that it is the twin ugly sister of shooting. You're making it's a largely mental process. You're making a shot under field conditions, and you're really only competing with yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say it's the closest parallel to shooting. And, if you're going to pull any sort of official sport out, okay, as much as we want to say shooting is a sport, I would say most people would say otherwise.
Well, you might find the Olympics disagreeing with you right now. Shooting's actually, do you know the first Grey Cup is a shooting trophy. It precedes the football one by several years.
Oh.
Yeah, so shooting has been a Canadian sport longer than any other, and there's more firearms owner. You probably know this. There's more firearms owner in Canada than there are hockey players. True story.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yep. There's more PALs issued than there are registered hockey players in all leagues combined.
Interesting.
So Canadian, it's we don't think of it that way, but shooting is very much a Canadian sport. My mom and dad grew up in two completely different areas of Canada. Both had rifle ranges under their school gyms.
Yeah, they used to be common.
Very common. Yeah. And there's obviously a shift away from that, but I think we're seeing a resurgence too. And I think that's what I love Rimfire so much is it's so achievable. With PRS or like I said with the ELR, it's cost prohibitive.
Well, who has access to that kind of distance?
Yeah, that's the other one. With 22, you can with Rimfire you can accomplish the same thing on an achievable financial and geographic scale. It's 100% achievable. So I'm super thrilled to see it go so well in Canada.
Yeah,
and we just have to get it back into the school program. So
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Hey Ben, I've got a question.
I'm not going to hold my breath for it, but
yeah, that would be awesome though.
Yeah.
The university guys are starting. We got a question on typical rifle setup that people recommend, and second question: shooting positions on your first intro to shooting. Because Rob's a fairly new shooter or fairly returning shooter, I guess.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to, if they only have one rifle, bring what they got. If I ask that the rifle be relatively capable, a precision rifle, and frankly, every off-the-rack grade rifle that's in the gun store these days, with few exceptions, most of them are fabulous. They really are. Like, I'll be honest, when I started my sniper training, if you could shoot a minute angle, people would stop and come over and watch you. And if you think about it, a minute of angle or an inch per 100 yards is what it works out to. That's still 10 inches at 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Or 914 meters. So, we kind of sneer at a minute of angle rifle, but most of them coming off the rack now are 3/4 minute angle capable.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point of diminishing returns. If you run the hit probability through the Brian Litz's WES calculator, the
right.
Ballistic Jesus' calculator, it tells you your hit probability doesn't really increase after your system improves past 3/4 minute of angle. It really is the sweet spot. I mean, you're going to double your cost in terms of money and barrel life and ammo to get to half minute of angle, and you're really increasing I think it's about 4% hit probability. So short answer is bolt action or semi centerfire rifle capable of minute of angle or better with a optical scope, optical sight with externally adjustable turrets. Preferably in a non-magnum caliber, preferably with hash marks on the reticle, preferably mils, and that may be heresy to those that hold minute angle near and dear. But I was one of those guys. I was Mr. 308, Mr. Minute Angle, because that's what I knew, right? That was my whole professional career. I dropped that like a hot potato, man, like a hot rock, as soon as I understood what you can do with mills and what you can do with some of the actually first quick hit techniques. So minute angle gun with an externally adjustable turret in a center fire cartridge. And if it's what you got is not quite that, we'll work with it. We have guys coming out with 300 Win Mag hunting rifles with duplex reticles, and they can do everything we do on the first day. with the exception of getting out to some of the longer ranges because their scopes just aren't adjustable to those distances.
Right.
How long is that course?
We limit it to 7.5 hours.
It's a full day.
It's a very full day, and that's the problem. Is after about 6 hours, you can see, and you guys probably encounter this in your own performance and in Maple Seek too. Is you see the curtain go up and people are just not receiving anymore.
Yeah, they're fried.
Yeah,
it's a multiple day course.
Well, we do custom work, and it depends, and we vary it. Like, we can do a wind deal that's like maybe 10 minutes, and you could probably use what I'm talking about. Or sometimes we have a day. Usually it's a 1 day package, 7.5 hours, followed by 3 weeks or more of homework.
Mm-hmm.
If people are traveling from a great distance, or the rare occasion where I've traveled, we'll do multiple day. But it's ideal to do 1 day, go away and practice. Do another day, go away and practice.
Yeah.
So these same people will come back for another. They'll take your course. They'll go home and basically practice on the weekends and in the evenings for a month, and then they'll come back to do another. Is that part of a scheduled routine? That is kind of. I know it's custom, but does it follow more or less a schedule and it's tweaked as needed?
It really is dependent on where the person's starting from. Like my fundamentals day, a couple times I've been able to do it in less than a morning because the person already has strong fundamentals. So we do the mental management part, we do the fundamentals, and then we're able to move on into like position work if that's what they want, or lots of wind, or they've never touched a kestrel before.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, because I do run private and small group for civilian side, I teach military and police, but on the civilian side, we'll do the first day will be mindset or mental management and fundamentals. The second day will be mindset and a little bit refresh your fundamentals, and then get into some of the advanced aiming techniques. And then third day is typically mindset, and you're starting to see a pattern here, and wind and kestrel, or we'll do just a kestrel day, or we'll do just a wind day, because both are really large subjects. And then we'll get into position shooting and field firing.
Okay, so it's almost like a 4 day block.
At least, yeah. I think the most number of sessions that one student or a group of students have taken on the civilian side is about 11. I think
11 days.
11 separate sessions, yeah.
Okay,
over a couple of years.
Understood. So it's
lifelong pursuit.
What are some of
the common corrections that you make in case people are just starting out? What should they look for that typically is the first speed bump that they have to get over?
Well, I think you touched on it with people being nervous at Maple Seed. Is first of all, give ourselves permission to relax and fail. Go out and fail and struggle and improve, because if we don't allow ourselves to try something new and suck at it at first, we're never going to, if we do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we got, and we're never going to improve. So getting people to relax and allow them and make them understand that they're in the experimental phase of learning again, where they're trying new things. That's the first one. Very common things are making the rifle fit the shooter. And loved what you guys do with the pipe insulation and the vet wrap. That's magic, man. Building people's cheek pieces up so they can actually relax their head and neck and let it rest on the stock with the weight of the head and a pillow. So getting the gun to fit them. And then the mental program of imagining fully experiencing, as if you're a fighter pilot in a flight simulator, fully experiencing in your mind, consciously working your way through all the steps of firing a perfect shot, including a center pung or V-bow, and then emotionally enjoying it. So you imagine that all, carry it out, and then replay or rewrite it at the end. And on the, there's usually it's a mental side that most people have never done before, including our military snipers. I just did a day of of mental management with one of the sniper platoons here, and they've never touched on it. It's just not taught.
I mean, there's nobody teaches it. It's not available. It's just doesn't, unless you've kind of shifted off to a side where you have the great fortune to work with Keith and Linda, or Lenny Basham's book.
Yep.
It's rare that you get exposed to that side of the training and the improvement process. So
yeah, and it's odd. You're right. You almost have to trip across it, but once you do, you realize, and it's kind of not frustrating, but amazing parts to me is that the things we're talking about, successful people do all the time. They may not do all of them, but they do some of them. They may not know, they're not going to use the same terms and words that we are, but they're doing it.
Sure.
And that's, mental management is employed. I've got one student who's a great guy he's an executive chef for a major restaurant chain. And they're already doing things like future forecast. They're pretending their company's already in the early 2030s, and they're going to move towards their behaviors if they're already doing it. That's a skill. I've had a premier's chief of staff, and he's like, "Oh, that's what we do. I do with my team every day before the premier arrives." So these techniques are not unique.
They're not unique.
Yeah, no, they're very common.
Yeah.
And most of the things you already do, it's just that we give it a name and we do it consciously and deliberately and consistently.
Yeah. But in the regular school curriculum, it's never covered. There's nothing like that. So you have to be lucky to work in a company that either has that sort of embedded in its corporate culture or part of
there
the
isn't
process.
much practical that's taught in a regular school curriculum there, Rick.
But think of how great everyone would be if they did, though, right?
Yeah, I would say most individuals that are part of team sports would experience part of the mental management, mental strengthening. Because really comes down to, are you having a mental breakdown when you miss the net or not? And if you're having a mental breakdown, then your coach has got to talk to you and tell you, hey, listen, bud, it's not the end of the world. Figure out what you did and move on. But
you're lucky. Our football coaches back in the day would just suck it up. Just get out there. I was like, I'll keep beating until your performance improves, right?
That's Army counseling. Why do you suck? You suck. Stop sucking so much. Yeah. I tell an incredibly sad baseball story that very much parallels Lanny Basham's sad baseball story. But the coach, it basically boiled down to, it was the crunch moment and I was stuck up batting and I'm horrible. And the coach was like, don't suck. You don't screw this up. And that's how you coach a 9-year-old in the 70s, right? So if you get a good coach, you're learning mental management. If you work for someone, you're doing mental management. It's just you just may not be aware of it.
Exactly, which is awesome if you're lucky enough to, and you only appreciate that after you've left to say, this is great. You guys didn't get this when you were doing whatever. So it's awesome. For those who don't know, we're talking about Lenny Basham's book With Winning in Mind. Or Keith and Linda's book, Secrets of Mental Marksmanship. Those are the two must-have books. The Secrets of Mental Marksmanship is already great on its own. But if you want to have something else to kind of pile on or contrast or compare, then Lenny Basham's With Winning in Mind is a second book that are game changers, literally game changers for people. Yeah. So,
Keith came into mental management by one of the principles of mental management is create opportunities, and Keith was charged with running a rifle team in the Army, and he tripped across mental management. But to have Lanny come up and teach it, and of course back then it was really only accessible in person, but to have him come up and teach it was cost prohibitive, just for the rifle team. So he went and shocker, the base golf team had all kinds of money. So he, see my unreasonable prejudice. Yeah. So he teamed up with a couple other sports organizations.
Nice.
And that could afford Lanny to come up and teach.
Yeah. That's great.
That's impacted Keith and Linda and a handful of others have impacted a couple generations of shooters across Canada. Yep. Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Good.
The mental management side is more and more accessible, and it is hard to find good training. Maple Seed is still my number one national program to direct people towards, regardless of their shooting experience. But almost all of them are teaching some form of mental management. The mental management website, and I hassled Troy Basham about it a couple months ago. The mental management website is not a great website. Their videos could use some updating, but go ahead and spend the money and go through the mental management. I think it's Foundations or Mental Management 101, and go and access that video. I wish I'd had that video when I started. Go and watch that one. Okay. And if you can do it live, get out to one of Keith's sessions, or one of the unintended consequences of the lockdowns over COVID is Troy and Lanny and the others have, like many other organizations, have started doing a lot more online stuff. Right. So there are live sessions where you can, like this, where you can go one-on-one or in a group and directly hear and directly ask questions of Troy and Lanny and get it right from the horse's mouth. So I encourage people to do that. It's it may not be all that popular. I mean, you can show your shiny new, your shiny new stock or your shiny new bipod extension to your friends, but you can't show them your increased mental focus. Yeah, I know. So it is money well spent to go out and pursue some of that.
They'll see you as you climb up the leaderboard.
Yeah, and those,
slowly.
Yeah. Well, you hinted at something I wanted to kind of go back to is goal setting. Mm-hmm. When we describe goals, it's important that we describe the process. Yes. The goal, it's not to, shoot an HPS. That's kind of a goal, but a goal might be to shoot my standing within a 10-inch circle within the time allowed. That's a goal. Exactly. Yeah. But to beat Bob or to shoot faster than Sue, when we compare ourselves to a standard like a score or a placing or a leaderboard or someone else, what we're focusing on is then results. Yeah. And when we focus about results, it's like you said a minute ago about about people coming to Maple Seed, is they're focused on shooting the rifleman score. Well, we can't control that. And like when I go to competitions, I can't control if I win or lose. Yeah, man, we'd go down to sniper competitions in the States, and there'd be like the Secret Service there'd be the British SAS, there'd be Delta, there'd be SEALs, there'd be all these other people. And whether we won or lost didn't depend on them. It depended on our performance. All we can do is perform well. Right. We do the same performance whether we're shooting in a local match or at a national match. Yeah. We do what we do. We do the best performance we can, and whether we win or lose depends on who else shows up. Yeah. Exactly. So focusing on a performance during the performance and before and after, that's what we want to focus on when we're goal setting and designing our training. And the more we write about, talk about, think about, enjoy an idea, including planning, the more we think about, write about, enjoy, the more likely we are to do it, and the more likely we are to gain properly from it. Yeah. When we're doing the activity, when we're out there shooting, we focus on the process, and we focus on what good looks and feels like. How many times? Okay, so has this ever happened to you? Is that you fire 4 shots and they're pretty good, like they're better than your average group, and then like the 5th shot, like what always happens to the 5th shot? Yeah, it's a flyer, right? Yeah. Or if you ask your students if you give them the wrong question, if you give them how'd that go, they'll tell you in great detail what they're going to tell you about. Yeah, in their group. Shots. Yeah, they're going to tell about their bad shots. Say, oh, I pulled this one. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I don't want to hear about bad shots because you're going to repeat them. Yeah, I want to hear about what you did right. Yeah.
So I use the blind trick. I shoot groups that I can't see by dialing up and aiming at a different spot.
Dude, absolutely, man. I'm to the point with some people, like they'll fire and then they'll look at the shot, fire and look at the shot. Oh yeah. I'm going to bring a negative target up. It's a black target with a white dot on it, and then and bring their parallax out just a bit so they can't see their impacts.
Nice.
I just shoot one-shot groups. Fixes the issue.
Yeah. Put all through the same hole. But no, by one-shot groups, what do you mean, Matt?
No, I'm teasing. Like the group is one shot, so it can't get any better.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't get bigger, right? No, but the one-shot group idea is kind of cool. People will fire separate shots at separate points so that they're not looking at groups. But yeah, focusing on process is key. I tell the story that the very first free fall, I went on the military free fall parachute course. And my very first jump, what they do is they bring you up in a C-130 Hercules. So it's like a flying warehouse. It's huge. And they lower the ramp in the back. And they take the student and you poise. You turn and face the same direction as the aircraft, and your toes are on the ramp. Your heels are out in space. The instructor's got a hold of your chest strap. And then they tap you, they give you the go. And you just go back into it's the easiest way to get into the correct position and hold it for the 4 seconds, the 5 seconds they want you to hold until you pull your chute. Well, I was the second student on the first jump, and the first one was a friend of mine, Darnell, and Mike Johnson was the jump master. So Mike gets Darnell poised on the ramp, gets his toes on the edge, gives him the point, and Darnell does a beautiful position off the back, and he's falling away, getting smaller and smaller, and it's like 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,006, 1,007. No parachute. Oh yeah, Darnell had a complete and utter bag lock. His parachute locked inside the deployment bag on his very first free fall. So at this point, Darnell has two choices. He can focus on his performance, on his process.
Yeah. Grab
the pillow, look and reach, fire them both, pull and check, cut away the main and get the reserve out there. Or he can think about the results.
Splat, yeah.
So it's only process that we have to focus on. I talk about the first time that when I went on the sniper course, I actually failed one of the first 6 shooting tests, and you're allowed to fail one of them, went back second time. And I got back, we started at 200, and I was dropping shots. I was losing points that I needed. I got back to 600, and it was a make or break point. So I did the one tiny bit of mental management that I've been given by an old sergeant. He didn't know it was called mental management, but I did what he told me. I closed my eyes. I visualized the target coming up, and to my horror, it was a moving target that we were shooting. And I am Mr. I am not Mr. Hands-eye coordination at all. Like, it's like my sad baseball story, So moving targets were my living nightmare. But I did what that old sergeant told me to. I closed my eyes, imagined it coming up, and the target's moving across. I imagined the rifle going off. I imagined the hit, and I imagined enjoying it after. And I opened my eyes, which was good because the targets were up. And I tracked and trapped, and the rifle just went off. And I didn't focus on the fact that if I missed that shot, my sniper career was over. If I missed that shot, I failed the course. I was done. I focused on what that sergeant had told me to do, focused on the process.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I didn't hit the target. I didn't hit the kill zone. I hit the 2x2 wooden stick that the guy was holding on to at 600 meters from a kid who can't throw or catch.
Yeah.
So that's what focusing on the process did for me. So it's absolutely huge.
Yeah. I think it's intimidating for new shooters to develop that process. So at least Maple Seed, we kind of walk through subconsciously. We teach the process through the, building the perfect body position. Then we get into 6 steps of firing the shot, and then the natural point of aim. So in there is the process. And most people think of it as independent things, unfortunately. So I'm going to try this, and that's going to help me. I'm going to try this, and that's going to help me. And if I have time, I'll do this, and that'll help me some. But if you put all 3 of those together, then your improvement, skyrockets tremendously, because now you've got a complete process as opposed to improved components of a process. It's like putting a bigger motor in your car without upgrading suspension or tires or transmission. Yes, it makes the right noises, but you're kind of missing an opportunity to get huge leaps and bounds of improvement. So that's the hard part. So new shooters, they come and they shoot and they have a good time and they get a certain performance standard, but very few people look at where and how they could improve moving forward if that's what they want to do. Others, there's nothing wrong with just coming out and having a good time 90% of the events I go to, I'm just there to have a good time now. I don't do my post event, like Kevin goes through his or Matt goes through their checklist, and they watch the footage and they take notes. I'm just there smiling and pulling the trigger and,
this is
and
coming
talking
from
to people
after you won first place on Sunday.
Because I was focusing on having a good time. I didn't care about the outcome.
Yeah, you shot like a boss.
Mr. Full Modesty over there.
but that's what it is. It's just you just hang out and hang a good time. And again, I guess I have enough subconscious ingrained in there that it comes up and does work for me. But
that's actually a good point. Like I think Ben mentioned it just a little while ago. Like you want to train yourself to be good enough where the things start to be subconscious, because you can't concentrate on all the things you need to remember, to pull off that good shot. Like I think something about, like, I just took another maple seed 2 weeks ago, and something I was thinking about was like, there's a lot to think about, right? You're drinking from a fire hose the whole time. So a lot of these small things that you learn have to become subconscious before you can actually shoot a rifleman. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly. Oh, sorry. It's exactly with the golf swing. Like I was swinging a club and well, I'm only going back to golf because I haven't been a new shooter for a little while, and I've never taken formal instruction as a new shooter. I took formal instruction as anyway, that doesn't matter. But back to golf is that I was actually swinging and hitting, and it was going well. And then a fairly seasoned individual came and was very generous and taught me some stuff. But after he taught me all this stuff, I was like a stiff robot, I'm like, okay, I'm gotta hold my arms like this, and then I gotta like shove my hand out, and then I gotta do this, and then my elbows gotta be like this. I gotta have bends in my knees, then I gotta swing, and then it's like, oh my god, and
relax.
and enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself. Yeah.
And meanwhile, like that was absolutely atrocious. So when I shot the maple seed, I fortunately already had a good fundamentals. But for individuals that don't have those fundamentals and they show up and they're drinking from the fire hose, it's just like poof. Like Ben says in his books, like you absolutely need that month of trying it out afterwards, because in the moment you're not going to learn anything. You got to go back and review your notes, like a good old student.
That's why we give the handout. These are the things that you should be working on. Yeah. And then people who only go to maple seeds expecting their performance to improve without practice, you're only going to get what you got. if that's all you put into it,
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. Practice is where we actually make the gains.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard. It's hard though. It's hard. That's why I said, find a buddy, because each of you are going to remember different parts of the course, and each of you will help each other improve faster, better,
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And even if you can't get together, one thing we're starting to do now is video ourselves and then email it to a training partner and have them critique it.
Yeah.
Even if it's a dry fire session, I love dry fire. There's a great app called Coach's Eye, and it allows you to slow things down into slow motion. And if you're, shooting any kind of PRS stages, you'll find the half seconds or the tenths of a second or the seconds to shave. Yeah. It's not, we don't win or lose. When we talk about pistol, we say we don't win or lose fights or competition stages actually shooting. We win or lose doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Doing the movement, doing the transition. And I know I just watched a bunch of training videos from U.S. Practical Shooting Association, and it's in the moving and the stopping, that they really gain their time in. So videoing yourself and learning where to shave time by economy of motion is absolutely huge.
And that's a good point, because when if you remember maple seeds, you've got the two middle stages, or 55 seconds and 65 seconds transitions from one position to another. And where people blow the time is not mag changes, it's getting sights on target, getting into a solid position, ready to engage. Is, you'll start off at 20 seconds to get to target, and that's over almost half or a third of the time available to you.
Yeah.
So if you cut that down to 10 or 12 seconds, which is where most of the faster, more confident shooters will be, then you've picked up 8 seconds, which, a couple of seconds per round is the difference between finishing or leaving half a mag, unshot. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So practice being solid enough to be able to engage, identify and acquire the target. Never mind engaging it. Just get on target faster.
Get on an acceptable sight picture.
Yeah, exactly. Acceptable sight picture. Exactly. That's the key. So practice that. Don't even have to pull triggers, right? You could do that at home without any rounds or any magazines.
And have you heard about our Lord and Savior dry fire? Yeah, I'm a huge dry fire fan.
Yes,
because you can do all of that without firing a single round. And as much as it was up to me, man, I'd live in an Atco trailer across the road from the range, but my wife apparently doesn't agree with that way of life. So I can't always get to the range. None of us get to the range as much as we like.
No.
But I can go and dry fire, and it makes a huge difference. I've got one student, Jason. He'd done some 20 talk about culture. He last time he'd really shot was when he was a young man, late teenager. They used to have air rifle competitions in the pub. While drinking.
That's awesome.
So he comes in he wants to do the long range rifle stuff, just basic shooting. He has progressed astronomically because he's working from home. He's a professor, amongst other things, working from home, and his reward for himself is to go down and dry fire 15 to 20 minutes every day.
Nice.
And he was progressing so fast that he is the only person I know who, on their own initiative, then started again from the left hand. So now he's shooting 100% left hand, left eye.
That's perfect.
And he is progressing even faster and better because he's putting the work in. He's doing quality repetitions. He's only accepting a correct position. Right. His transition from standing to unsupported kneeling is much faster than just about anybody else because he dry fires it over and over and over.
That's awesome. That's so good. That's amazing to hear.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how fast people progress when they put the work in.
Yeah,
and like we were talking about before, if we talk about one of the powers is the power of the pack, and we surround ourselves with people we want to be like. Like that's easy to say and do, but the reality is, if you surround yourself with shooters who are only doing it right, you only see what is correct, and you only do what is correct. And we talked about this earlier before broadcast was. We'd have guys join the Army rifle teams, and they would progress so fast that we'd be like, "Hey, dude, we're going to the provincial championships. Okay, don't tell the cities how long you've been shooting because they'll think you're a liar. Because these guys got so good so fast because they only ever did it correctly, and that's what really counts is quality repetitions. Only accept a perfect sight picture when you're practicing. Only accept a correct position." There's the old story, the problem with now. You ever get that feeling when you're shooting? It's like, oh, I gotta press the trigger now. There's this temptation to fire. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's natural. And we train out of it by realizing that we're cheating ourselves if we have to fire now.
And that's the thing. So I shot that match on just this past weekend, and it was so hard to get that perfect sight picture. So I'd be up there for 3 to 5 seconds and not shooting because it wasn't ready yet. So I had enough training still left in me to say, just because you want to doesn't mean you should. You know, you have to fire when it's perfect, and that's the difference. Is shoot when you need to, not when you want to.
Yeah, and when especially when you get up off our bellies and start shooting position shooting. I don't like the term wobble zone because that tells us to wobble. I don't want to wobble. Yeah. I talk about my area of aim. So we train for a point of aim. Later on, as we progress, our subconscious learns an acceptable area of aim for each position, each distance. So, and we should be training to the point where the rifle will still go off subconscious. Our conscious mind is only thinking of sight picture. I train people reticle until the rifle goes bang. If we're shooting, if we're dry firing enough and dry firing well enough, the rifle will just start to go off in any position.
Yep.
But I'm still working on all that.
Yeah, but it's fun though. It's fun. It's fun to put the reps in and see the gradual improvement of, there are days when things just come off right, and it's just you're just ringing steel all day, and you're not really working at it, quote unquote, because you've already worked at it, and your body's saying, "Why don't you take a seat? I got this," which is nice.
That's right. See. Yeah, like the guys you're talking about, you winning, and you were there just to have a good time. The truth is, a good performance is easy, and it's enjoyable, and that's the other thing. You talked about things that we want to tell people right off the bat, or new shooters, is to really enjoy good shots. And what I'm talking about is, in masculine culture and in Canadian culture in particular, we don't celebrate our success. There's a great book about Canadian athletic achievements over the last 100 years, and it's called Not Bad, Eh? Not bad, eh?
That's perfect.
It was some track and field dude over in the 50s or something. Wins the Olympics, like knocks the hell out of, smokes everybody. When he comes off the field, the reporter asks him about it, and he says, "Yeah, not bad, eh?" Like, okay, that's
that's perfect.
Yeah, that's cool, and it's humble, and I get that. Yeah. But if we enjoy something, even if it only happens once, it's burned much deeper into our subconscious.
For sure.
So what I train people to do is when we're firing and we have a good repetition, like whether it's live and you get that nice center pung and you see that beautiful black appear on the white perfect steel, or you're just dry firing and that trigger breaks subconsciously and you knew it was right there in the V-bolt. We then enjoy it. Oh yeah. Like when I visualize, I hook emotion to a good visualization. Nice. So I'm like, you'll see me, I look like, I don't know what people think when they're watching me visualizing. I'll be there and I'll be like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. And what I'm doing is I'm enjoying and I'm increasing the impact of that correct repetition, that's real awesome. Or imagined. I used to get hacked on shooting sniper pairs, sniper fires, send it, bang. The spotter will often ask, how is that? And what he's asking the shooter is, was that a correct shot? With an evolved sniper pair that's used to working together, you don't have to ask the sniper, and I would do the same thing. I'd say, that was a good one, or leave it if it wasn't, but good one. Yeah. But I wouldn't be. I'd be like, oh, that was delicious. Guys would laugh. And the reality is, I've done this so much that I actually get a coppery taste in my mouth when I fire a good shot because I enjoy the hell out of it. Nice. So when we do good performance, it's super important that we really emotionally enjoy it.
Right.
And remember, I talked about doing things you don't normally do. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. If you want to bring yourself to the next level, hook emotion to what you're doing in a good performance. And you will see, not only will you improve your performance, you're going to enjoy yourself a lot more.
Oh, that's going to be Kevin and Matt getting high fives after a good stage. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that, man. Oh, yeah, doing the victory lap, doing the hand slaps all the way down the squad.
Yeah, well, you talk. Kevin mentioned earlier about team sports. At the professional level, what do? They go by the bench in hockey. And there's high fives. European soccer players do their thing. But anyways, there's a celebration, and it's important that when there's success, we celebrate. If you look in my album, and we'll talk about albums in a bit, there is a picture with every successful shooter I can lay my hands on. I've got a picture with Rick. I've got a picture with Keith, Dave Oakey, every Queen's medalist I've met. I've got a picture because it is like me to hang out with those people. It is like me to do the things they do. Right. The only thing better that I've ever seen is another coach and mentor of mine, just retired from the military, Steve Virch, a longtime international service rifle shooter. Steve, he has his book about shooting, and it has about 40 empty pages at the back where you're supposed to take notes. What Steve does is every time he meets an international level champion or a Queen's medalist, he gets them to write one page about what shooting is about.
Wow.
That's awesome. Stuff in the back of that book is probably the most valuable information of shooting I've seen in my life.
I can't imagine what that treasure is like. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. So collect and enjoy successes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was just mentioning about the album. anybody's family ever have the baby album? Usually the first kid gets it. The third kid gets nothing, but the first kid typically has a baby album with their first lock of hair, and that's mom or dad, usually mom, celebrating the successes. I do the same thing with myself. Actually, the reason I've got this picture up beside me, it's an album. It's a hero wall, but it's an album. An album can be a physical book with pictures or news articles of every success I've had in shooting. It can be a hero wall like this, all the cool stuff I did in the Army, and there's pieces of rockets that missed me, and pictures of cool stuff I did. And there's actually a picture of a rocket a piece of rocket that missed me back there. I consider that a success.
That's big success.
I'm celebrating the successes I had. And when people come in and see this, it normalizes it, and it gives them permission to do the same.
Right.
One of my other doors out of the picture there, it's all my student successes. And I also have an album of every course I've taught with pictures with me, the group photo we all do. And those are super important because we're increasing our self-image.
Yeah, and that's so key. I mean, guys, write this down and make this part of your life, because these are nuggets. These are gold nuggets of things that will help you improve your self-image, and eventually your performance will be tied to that as you strive to keep piling on. You'll stand on top of all of those positive thoughts.
Yeah,
you can do it.
It's like you to win. You end up going and expecting to win.
Yeah, that's why when Kevin wins, I feel good because he's part of the crew. We're all part of the same group. When Matt does well, beats me, so that's great. Matt's my buddy. I hang out with winners.
Yeah.
I must be doing something wrong, because when Matt beats me, I sabotage his rifle.
I'd like to tell you that never happens at the international level, but it happens. So that's another point, is contingency planning. I've known guys that went to Olympics and their rifle disappeared.
No.
But they walked over but they didn't have their backup rifle in the same case. They walked over to their teammates, opened the other side of their box, and pulled their identical backup rifle out. So contingency planning, it counts. Yeah.
I was going to say that's a lie though, Kevin, because I never beat him anyway.
Hey, well, okay. You haven't beat him yet. But the day you have not yet come to the day you beat him. Okay, see how we changed the phrasing of that? And it's not what you say, it's what you tell yourself or others, cause them to picture.
Right.
Yeah, no, I definitely have a different mindset, because like what Rick and you were saying before, like it's about more of the process and focus on yourself, like what you can't control what other people are doing and who shows up.
Exactly.
And I've done a lot of I don't know if you'd call them competitive, but I've played a lot of sports and done a lot of sports and whatnot. So I kind of have a mindset like that. Like if I'm going to win, I know I'm basically setting yourself up for disappointment, right? Because if you don't win, you feel like you've failed yourself. You did horrible. But if you just focus on not disappointing yourself, I think that's the biggest key, at least for me. Like I just don't want to disappoint myself at the end of the day.
Okay. So I'll ask you, that's really neat. How do you know that? How do you know if you've disappointed yourself? It's just an emotional
as
thing,
soon as you do something that you discipline, like for shooting, for instance, like if I make one of those silly mental mistakes that have nothing to do with how good of a shooter I am, right? Like if I'm just being dumb and I forget to dial the next target, or like I'm shooting targets out of sequence, like that to me is a failure. Like that is more disappointing than making a bad win call or something like that. If in switchy wins, if it's just, I shot the wrong target because I wasn't paying attention, well, that's kind of a huge disappointment for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I hear then is really exciting, actually, because what you've identified is what you have to do next, and you're going to clean you're going to clean the field, man. Because if you're already shooting and making decisions well enough, and the only thing that kept you from first place was something out of target or out of sequence or a scope setting, you've just you've found that golden chunk that you've got. That's the most valuable thing to you, the takeaway from that day. And that may be the only thing you win that day, but it's the most important thing.
Yeah, you're right.
What's going to take you to the next level. When I go and I make errors like that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is. That's what I need next.
Yeah.
And like I get super excited when I plateau in performance, because I know there's just one little thing I've got to change, and I'm going to be again. my increase is just gonna my learning curve is just gonna go vertical again. So when you and if you write these things down after, and write them down in a positive way, not like, oh dear diary, I buggered up and I didn't change my scope between stages, or I forgot to dial down. I write down solution analysis, and this is what I will do correctly next time. And I phrase it in the positive, and I phrase it in the present. So I always check my sights between stages. I always mentally rehearse the shot sequence and all the targets before the stage. It is like me to make sure I have enough rounds in my mag. And that way you identify, and usually I write those in red, because when I open the page, boom, that's what I look at, and that's what I mentally will do. So I did jiu-jitsu. I've been doing it for about 7 years. I haven't got my black belt yet. But there's a great saying I took away from my coach, is that in jiu-jitsu, you either win or you learn.
Nice.
And the best thing I loved about teaching kids jiu-jitsu was I was finally the toughest kid in the schoolyard. I could clean any of those 7-year-olds. They were dead meat, right? Okay. So that sounds silly, but if all I did was wrestle 7-year-olds, I'd be a stud, but I'd never get better. So, it sounds silly, but it's true, right? So, so I want to go and roll with the 24-year-olds who have been at it for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
A couple belts above me, because then I'm going to learn. And sometimes I'll go and I'll spend a whole day at a tournament, and the only thing I take away is that I saw somebody else, or somebody beat me by doing something I thought I knew how to do, but they did it slightly different in a better way. And I'll go drill that move for a month, and then I'll own it.
That's it.
So when we shoot, sorry.
Yeah, it's like shooting, So the guys on this podcast, Matt, Kevin, Thomas, and John, the full CRPS crew. I mean, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's the best way. You want to be a better shooter, hang around better shooters. So they will just subconsciously teach you, right? Mm-hmm. Every one of these guys have something that they can teach me, and I secretly learn all the time when I watch them shoot, whether it's, how do I prep the stage, John and his technical information about optics and wind and trajectory and ballistics, there's a lot of technical and positional and mental prep things that I learned from these guys. And that's the advice. If you want to be a better shooter, hang around better shooters. Also, I'm not saying leave your friends, but push yourself outside the envelope, and don't think you're not good enough to hang around with a better group of shooters, because they'll laugh at you. Shooters love to help other shooters get better. God, there is nothing that makes me happier than someone, shooting better than me, right? Or I've helped, or I've given them something that gets them shooting better or happier about shooting.
Absolutely. So, and successful people are usually almost invariably happy to help. They really, really are. My business coach, I went and I asked her, I said, hey, I'm starting a business. Would you be my business coach? Yes. Right away, maybe don't ask the shooter you want to be while they're doing their mental prep for the nationals or anything, but, create that opportunity. Go to them, give them your business card, say, hey, boss, that was a great shoot. I like what you did. Would you mind if I phoned you when you've got half an hour, and I'll pick your brain. And people are super, super generous.
Yeah. So one of the things that we started this year was a mentorship program at the matches.
Excellent.
You can borrow a rifle that's already got all the dope and the ammo. Just it's a setup ready to go, and we'll partner you up if you're new, experienced, whatever. If you just want to, have someone work with you, we have mentors available, all across Canada. So they just tell us, hey, I'd love a mentor, and then you're off to the races. So
that's fabulous. I didn't know that.
People have been taking advantage of that. So which has been great. And some of the guys commenting here are people that have benefited from that. So
and you benefit on both sides. As a mentor and a mentee. It's a huge benefit.
As a mentor, you have to be prepared. Nothing like learning a subject when you have to teach it, right? So
when you have to break it down into its component parts and explain it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the group's been great. I mean, all shooting communities are great, but the Rimfire crowd has been so supportive. You know, it's what do you need? You know, if you're new, like you'll never have, you know, any shortage of people willing to help you out with either gear or equipment or just advice, you know.
Yeah.
And no, that's awesome. That's probably one of the most rewarding things of this whole thing is just that literally the community that we built up, and the number of new shooters is so heartwarming to see. That, you know, first time competitor, you know, they'll raise their hand. I think last year the stats were 73% of the competitors were brand new to the shooting competition side, which is phenomenal. Yeah, which is great. So, you know, so far so good. And I think what we want to do now, and you know, folks like yourself, is how do we get them knowing about, well, what do I, now that I'm here, where do I go? Right. So there's that gap, and Maple Seed fits that bill. But folks like you can get them to the next stage of really providing that smaller one-on-one and moving them through the fundamentals, the rifle fit, and then the wind and kestrels and positionals and stuff like that. So that's the goal. And hopefully we hope to have more clinics where people can feel okay to fail, because I'm going to try something new and be able to run through it 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 different ways. So we had a couple of those last year. We'd love to do more this year. Just, you know, COVID kind of screwed up a lot of the plans this year, but those are the things that hopefully people take advantage of in the coming years and months. So, and again, it's we're seeing, you know, like we say at Maple Seed, you know, we're the spark, but they're the fuel. So our goal is to have other people just, hey, you know, and we're seeing it. People are holding, you know, Rimfire PRS clinics. That's great. You know, just it's help everybody out. If you've got, you know, land and you've got the willingness to get people on and shooting, it's, you know, it's entirely up to you guys to keep the ball rolling, you know? So yeah, it's so far so good.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. You know, you talk about the 5 people you hang out with, but what I'm also hearing from you guys is you're developing a really healthy community, and word of mouth is paying dividends because people are feeling confident because they've heard good things. They're confident to come to a match or to come to a clinic or to come to a Maple Seed.
Yeah.
Because as Kevin said, you know, it's been a while since you've been a new shooter, and we forget sometimes it can be intimidating.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also where we're in entering our 4th year, or we're in our 4th year now.
Wow.
And people are, the arms race has been piling on, right? Because the number of custom rimfire actions available, and people have been shooting for 3 years now. Well, they want something new, and they're fairly successful. They spend money, but now the new shooters are coming in. They're seeing, wow, is this what people do?
You're seeing all the Bugatti Veyrons and the Ferrari.
Yeah. So it's like,
but all I got is Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, and I just say, look, these guys have been shooting 3 or 4 years. They started where you were. Now they've reached a certain level of maturity and income that is a real possibility for them, and they enjoy it. You don't need that. The first thing is the willingness to come out and enjoy, which you've done, and now set your own goals of where do you want to go to next and work toward that. And then eventually you'll be where they are X years later, right?
Yeah, and I understand you still have a production class, right?
Yeah, we do. Yep. And we actually just raised the limits this year to include more of the typical, you know, mid-range options like the CZs and the T1Xs, which historically were outside the price range. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, we have to draw the line somewhere.
Sure.
But really it's you that's going to limit your performance, not the hardware.
Oh yeah, baby.
So yeah, we can go free for all, but then people would say, oh, I don't want to compete because it's too high end, you know, but
it becomes unattainable for most people.
Yeah, we could probably go up another 30% in the limit and not have a difference, you know, in terms of so. Yeah. Like,
I get a lot of people, like, you know, the question came up right away was, you know, what's a good rifle to start with? Like I said, the average off the rack rifle, and more importantly, you know, what you can get for your money for a scope now. Yeah. It's insane. I mean, I tell about the bad old days, my very first sniper scope, when you turned the dials, the reticle actually went up and over inside, like no shit. You know, you'd be shooting at like 900 in a wind, and then the reticle would be up in the top, like no kidding. Right. So, that's awesome. That was state of the art, right? Brutal. And all 6 power magnification. Thank you very much. yeah, I mean the availability of quality equipment for a reasonably affordable prices, certainly we're in the golden age. It's absolutely
for sure.
fabulous. So,
and even then there's the Outlaw series, which is the short range, which nothing past 100 yards, right? So it's within a target height holdover. So you don't even really need, dialing turrets. You can shoot the whole match and holdovers from 25 to 100. So that's the Outlaw series that's running across Canada.
Very cool.
Yeah, Sherwood Park does it on a regular basis.
Yeah, Tom Opkenorth.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So that's perfect if guys just want to come out and try the Outlaw, because you just need a magnified optic so you can see what you're shooting at. But if you know what your drop tables are, just hold 6 inches above the target, and at 100 you're good. 50. You only need like 3 holdovers, right? There's 0.
You only need
2.
Yeah, 2. Yeah. The 100-yard,
75 and 100. Because 75 and 50 are the same 0.
Yeah.
For 95% of people.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a great way to get started, and that's even more welcoming and easy to shoot because it's only 5 stages and it's off the regular stuff that you could practice with. So it's a 6-foot step ladder, folding chair, barrel, 4 tires, sawhorse. What am I missing? And standing, seated, and prone.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So
that is fabulous.
So
I saw some milk crates today in the back of
the
Queen.
Yeah.
Did you
steal it?
I went to the drive-through and I got myself a cone just to give them an excuse. I was like, I'm a customer. Hey, you doing anything with those milk crates? Yeah. They're not. We can't give them away. Damn.
Yeah, it's
sure
funny
you
how
can.
Your view of the world changes once you start shooting. It's like,
I
can totally use that as a target, or that'd make a great prop for a stage.
Exactly.
I can't walk through a hardware store normally anymore.
Yeah. Tires on the curbside suddenly takes on a different feeling.
Look at those luxurious used tires. Oof.
I know, right?
Yeah. Oh, hey, I just picked up 4 quad tires off a quad dealer, and I've done this. I've never done it for myself, but outside military work. But I've recommended it to 2 or 3 students who have small farms or large acreages, where it's not large enough to shoot a centerfire rifle, but they, it's safe and it's reasonable to shoot a 22, and yet their neighbors are close enough that you may not want to annoy your neighbors with the sound of it. So what I've had them do is buy 4 get 4 used quad tires, stack them together like slices of bread, bolt or tie them together, and then shoot through it as a noise reduction device. And you're often, the people inside your own house won't even know you're shooting.
Right.
That's like you just line them up like this: 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And bolt them together or zip tie them together.
It's like an external suppressor.
Right.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is, and it just prevents your neighbors from getting annoyed. So, you can't even walk through a used pile of tires anymore without figuring out how you're going to use them.
Yeah,
but
that's cool. Interesting. Yeah, probably makes a pretty neat noise too. Boom,
dunk.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet. I mean, it's even better if you put a piece of cardboard in between the first couple and just have an even smaller window to be able to shoot through, and I always wear hearing protection regardless, but it certainly reduces the need for it.
Nice.
It works very well. So a lot of my students are looking for opportunities to train outside, to begin to cross-train. I've got some sort of intermediate students who are looking to improve themselves beyond what they're already doing. Is that something you see the CPRS as an opportunity for them to do?
Yeah, I think so. It's exact. So the next level typically is wind and trajectory. So that's all the difference between the short course versus the CRPS long course, which is the fundamentals really are the same. Now you've got to be able to read the wind and predict. And again, because it's rimfire, if you do that triple, we're simulating out to 1,000 yards with a 308 now, right? So it's perfect. Mm-hmm. So for the long range guys who never knew there was a second rotation in their turrets, welcome to rimfire at 300, And then you've got to add some more cant to your rail. So Yeah, I think it would be perfect for the guys looking for that. Again, it's the same pace. I mean, the stages are a little longer. It's 2 minutes, but it's meant to be inclusive. But we try and add enough targets that everyone will make hits, but the really good guys will make more of those more challenging hits, either closer in or further out, for whatever reason, right? So we just mix it up. So yeah, it's perfect because again, it's cheap. You can decide the day before because you don't have to reload. It's grab a box of ammo and you go to town.
Yeah, you don't reload at 11 p.m. the night before.
Yeah, like 50% of the matches I've shot in my life. Yeah, no, thank you. Excellent. Or know the dreaded week before the match how much brass prep you've got to do and how many rounds you've got left, and
Yeah,
I know. Good luck.
Your family's being cranky because you haven't spent any time with them.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the match.
You're like a basement troll,
Yeah.
And they know. They know when a match is coming up. Oh, we're going down to make bullets, eh? Yeah, because the week before they know I'll be disappearing after dinner to finish the prep.
Yeah,
and then Carl Porter wishes you good luck at King of 2 Miles.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
that's Carl.
Carl Porter. Yeah,
Carl Porter.
He's from New Brunswick.
Excellent.
He's one of the outlaw match directors out there. Good shooter too. I just saw him on the leaderboard. Hey, congrats, Carl.
Oh, well done.
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah, there's some good shooters out New Brunswick. We just got Morgan Warren back. He was the head of the sniper cell down there in the infantry school, and we just stole him back. So he's come back to Edmonton.
There you go.
We're going to try and coerce him into running some of the competitions out here too. So,
speaking of good shooter, Ryan Stacy just saw he won a match out in Merritt this weekend, and a couple of the Saskatooners were out there as well.
Oh, excellent.
Dylan DeForest and Adam Glatt. Yeah, so that was nice to see the names up there. Congrats, Ryan.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're saying that shooting is a normal part of Canadian culture.
It is. It's a very normal part.
Excellent.
Yeah. Like I've met all of my best friends through shooting.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt. I think there's 2 million. Yeah. 2 million or 1.5 million. I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot. It's 5% of there's 10 times the amount of people who own guns than there are people in the military in Canada. So I think gives you an idea.
Exactly. My first date with my wife was at the Stittsville shooting ranges.
Yeah. Nice.
Second date was the biathlon range. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
They may not hang around, but the ones who do, they're the right ones.
That was Matt's litmus test.
What's funny was she was actually the one that wanted to shoot guns. That's how she approached me. She's like, "Hey, I heard you have guns. I want to try shooting guns." I was like, "Okay, done. Let's go."
Absolutely.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that she judges you based on the maximum caliber you shoot. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. Well,
at the time, you brought the 12 gauge out right away.
Yeah, I did. I had the 12 gauge. I had one
bad.
One of those guys.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I wanted her to think I was like John Wick or something,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
So Ben, what's the good, better, best? What's the philosophy behind that?
I like bumper sticker wisdom. If an idea is too complex that can't be fit on a 12-inch piece of vinyl on the back end of a car, it's probably not worth remembering. The idea of good, better, best is that, like I introduced myself at the beginning of this, is I'm a lifelong serious student of the rifle. And good, better, best is simply an indicator of the endless pursuit of improvement. It may be technical when a better something comes along. And I'm learning in ELR that everything matters. The neck tension of my brass. But it's not really that. It's upping my wind game. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Man, oh, man. Actually, I'll tell you about a really great thing that just happened yesterday. One of my fellow competitors, a longtime friend, deployed to Somalia with me. And he's been shooting ELR far longer than I have. he's my ELR coach and my reloading coach, Joel Blackburn he runs a company. He's instructed for me now. He's instructing his own. He runs a company called Echo Precision near Edmonton, and he's teaching very much the same stuff. But he phoned me up and he's all excited because he'd been out shooting in Saskatchewan with his competitive partner Ryan, and he'd made wind calls on a purely intuitive basis.
Nice.
Rather than staring at his Kestrel and then, like we all do, looking down range and comparing the movement of objects to movement of objects here at the Kestrel. Their best calculation was like 2.5 mils. And it was, I think they were shooting at 2,800 meters. And Ryan called him for an increase to 2.8 mils. And Joel was like, nope. That's 0.2 mils, and he held 0.2 mils, so 2.6 mils under, significant wind change, and he cannot quantify why he made that decision. Yes. And they hit within about 11 inches of where they were aiming on a purely intuitive basis. And that was super exciting for me because I've been teaching him and working with him to be less in his head and more in his subconscious. And
that's awesome.
So
oh man.
As an instructor, oh man, exactly. One of those golden moments where the light goes on for somebody, and especially for a very advanced shooter like Joel, to have an aha moment like that is so golden.
That's the goal. When they can't tell you why or how they did it, they just
know. I call it Jediing the rounds onto target.
You are one with the rifle.
When really good shots happen, and I'll be frank, some of the best decisions I've made in my life were no shoot decisions. I decided not to shoot somebody, and I couldn't tell you why at the time, and it was 100% the right decision.
That's it.
But the good, better, best is a philosophy of the pursuit of excellence and the pursuit of improvement, because to say we're going to spend all of us sitting here, there's heads nodding all over the screen, is we're going to spend the rest of our life getting good at this.
And again, not everyone has to have that. And I want to stress out to all the competitors that come out. So, you're not being measured. I don't care how you finish. I just care that you had a good time and that you were safe, right? What you want to get out of it is entirely up to you, but I just, and don't compare yourself to anybody else, because you're the one shooting, not them. And the minute you start comparing yourself to someone, that's when you start to fail, because you're not in control of what they do.
There's always somebody better. There's always somebody better, and they may or may not show up, and we may be better than we did last time, or sometimes we have matches that aren't as good. And now, like I said, that's an opportunity to identify what needs to improve. But every person who has come and shot in your CPRS matches or clinics placed ahead of me, because I haven't yet. There you go. So again, don't measure yourself by other people's success or lack of it. Let's measure ourselves by where we were yesterday. I want to be better than past me.
That's awesome. That's good.
Definitely. Okay.
And then how can people find out more about Sierra64 and Riflecraft with you, Ben?
What's the best way? You can go to the ever developing is one of the areas for improvement is going to be my website, Sierra64.com. Just the word Sierra, then 64.com, just like in the corner of the screen here, but all one word. Frankly, most of my information you're going to see is on Facebook, and just look up Sierra64 Riflecraft. And that's where I do very little to no advertising. Everything is pretty much there. I'm relying more on word of mouth. As you know, Rick, and the rest of you, this could easily take over your life.
Yes.
What you're doing is at least a part-time job.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Or at least a full-time. Yeah,
I know.
Just because it's a full-time job, isn't it?
One day I hope to get there. Oh man.
Yeah.
I love shooting so much, I decided to do less of it.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. But people can certainly look me up there. And what we say is, if I don't care that you train with us as much as I care that you do train. And if you can't get to me and my, I'm very, very fortunate that I have 2 battalions worth of sniper sections and platoons here that I draw on from my instructors, and I've got a number of retired and active duty military and law enforcement snipers and firearms instructors, and they're all competitors. So I'm able to access very many different points of view. And if we can't find an instructor for you amongst us, we probably know who do.
And having taken one class, it's next level stuff, and that's bandied about a lot by people. But if you really want to up your game, and the mental side is really where the winners really stand out, by harnessing the power of your subconscious and training your body to operate at that level. And certainly, there's a lot of emphasis put on your personal thought process, turning it into reality, which again resonated with me, and I think we clicked when we met at the first Maple Seed in Edson there. So I said, I like this guy. I know this guy.
Well,
he reminds me of someone.
So we measure others by how much they agree with us. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
Rick is so clever. Yeah.
A true measure of a man's genius is by how much he agrees with you.
Yeah, and there you go. You nailed it. We've known each other, internet known each other since pretty much the dawn of Canadian Gun Nuts.
Yeah.
And I twigged onto what you were saying and how you were saying. I'm like, this is the right thing. And so happy to see that you and others have brought it to fruition.
Yeah.
Because what we do on the range is really great, and it's important, but it's the lessons we learn there that we transfer. Like, I'll be frank, as I probably wouldn't be alive and certainly wouldn't be married if it wasn't for the mental management lessons I learned and then applied in every area of my life.
And that's the important thing, is that these lessons aren't restricted to shooting. It can change your life, and if you apply it. Yep, for sure. Yeah.
100%. I love shooting and love you all and hanging out with you guys, but when I'm with my wife, I'm like, it's called be all there. When I'm on the range, I don't think about work. I don't think about my wife. I don't think about anything. I'm 100% behind those crosshairs. I'm 100% with my student. And when I'm with my wife, I'm 100% with her.
That's awesome.
That makes me think of the box analogy joke. But, men have boxes, women have spaghetti in their head. If you don't know the joke, I don't know if I know all the details exactly.
Most of the time, I'm offered my nothing box. Like, what are you thinking about, dude?
Yeah, nothing. It's in my nothing box.
Nothing box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it really does impact every area of your life.
It does.
Yeah. The only exception I'll say is, and this is for those who are want to get better at their wind, is the only exception, and my wife hates this. Well, she laughs at me now, but I'll be having dinner with her, and I'll be talking, and then she'll see me like looking over her shoulder, and she's like, "Stop it," because I'm looking at the wind. Of course, it's in my pocket. This is the basics, the 1000 Kestrel weather meter. It lives in my pocket. And when I'm filling up my gas, I walk over to the edge and I look at the trees and I feel the wind on my face, and I'm like 3 meters per second, or that's 7 miles an hour, 3 meters per second. I'll hold it up. I'm like, oh yeah. Or I'll be like, okay, that's 5. Okay, why is it 5? What am I? And I'm calibrating myself to the only non-deterministic factor in shooting, which is wind. It's constantly changing, and you can't measure it where the bullet is.
Yeah.
So if you can, and I went on AliExpress and I literally found the cheapest wind meter I could. It was $12, and it gives me the same wind speed as my $1,000 Kestrel. So one of those, or usually this one, lives in my pocket, and I will be dry firing wind just about every chance I get.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Or if you got a shooting buddy, you go for walks together, take your dogs or whatever, go for walks, and you get on your cell phones or a cheap pair of radios, and you look in the distance and you're like, hey man, what's the wind down there? And he's like, oh, it's 7 meters per second. Cool. And then you can do the same for him from a couple 100 meters away or 10 meters away. But
that's cool.
Just working on the wind constantly is it's the number one reason that most people miss targets, is misinterpreting the wind. So
especially in this game.
Yeah,
for sure.
I can't even imagine with 22, man.
Yeah,
I got to get on that because it's got to be, because your bullet's coming out subsonic, right?
Yeah,
It leaves the muzzle subsonic most 22s.
Yeah,
right?
it's like 10-50 feet per second around there or something.
Yeah.
not a lot.
And it's shaped roughly like a small basketball, right? It's not exactly the tangent ogive tail around.
It's not a Sierra.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's a lead tip chunk of lead.
Yeah.
Still reaches out to 1,000 yards though.
That's
true.
At least.
Well, you mentioned about the 5.56 being part of your life when you were looking at the sponsor there. Joel, one of his friends, shoots a 85 grain 223 and a very fast twist barrel. And Joel got him on at 1,500 meters for 5. It took him 3 rounds to get on, but then he kept 5 rounds on a minute and a half angle of target at 1,500 meters.
Nice.
Yeah, like that's an insane distance for 5.56. So
I think that's my next direction.
Well, basically, I didn't know, but Kevin Niedowitz. I think I'm pretty close there, but he basically mentioned last week that 223 loaded with like a 90 grain bullet, which you can't buy factory ammo, but if you reload that, it's equivalent to like a 6mm dasher or a 6mm BR or something.
Yeah,
anyway,
100%.
it's equivalent ballistically from a wind perspective to like these very, we'll say, new cartridges.
Yeah.
And to me, the only reason why I don't want to go to those is like the barrel life is absolute junk.
Yeah, it's diminishing returns.
It's as much as I like shooting, I'm not trying to send my barrel out or get a new barrel every year or whatever.
Yeah, like it's always interesting to see what we can get out of certain equipment. But the answer to trying to get your 223 better is just shoot a 300 Win Mag. Or shoot a 3, if you really want to shoot out to those, just get what is the tool for? And if our goal is to get better at shooting wind, I think you 22 folks have probably got the answer.
Some of us do.
Hey Matt, no, like I want to hear it. Like, hey, yeah. I am getting there. Like, you tell yourself positive things, man. Always. There you go. But no, I mean the 22 is probably the best way for people to learn wind in a reasonable, affordable way.
Yeah.
But it's always neat to see stuff like ELR guys shooting, like 308 into the heavier 220 grain bullets.
Just wait till the king of 0.22 miles comes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, isn't 22 ELR a new thing? They're starting to get the longer. Yeah.
So we'll push it to the reasonable attainable distance is 600. With a Hail Mary at a 700-yard target.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Damn, that's got to be coming in like a basketball.
Fun. Yeah, it's lobbing it in. I don't know.
No, 44
feet. What's the
Wait, give me a second here.
I still have.
You got it. Matt's got the.
I still have my bullets here. So
he's got the collection. He's got the 1,000-yard impact collection.
So Ben, just to show you, Kevin and I, we shot 22 at 1,000 yards.
And this
is the impact. I need a white background. Sorry, give me a second here.
I'll give you the solo layout for them. Here's your close up, Matt. You ready?
All right. Yeah, give me a close up. All right.
So there you go.
So this is the impact at 1,000 yards. Right there. And so you can see the angle it came in on.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but you gotta flip it around, Matt.
No. Yeah, I see it. Like I get the angle it came in on. That's crazy. Yeah. Dude, that chunk of lead is worth more than gold. Like that's what I talk about with an album. No, seriously. Because that is success.
So we landed 7 hits, Kevin? I think it was 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we landed 7 hits at 1,000 yards, and we found 6 of the bullets. So I got them all here.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is so wild. Like honestly, like 10, 15 years ago, would any of us imagine this?
No.
Yeah, no way.
No way. And yet here we are doing it.
Yeah, 150 was a poke and a half.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like why would you shoot past 150?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's just openers for us. Like, you don't even think about it. Like, when you walk up to a stage that's got like 125, 150 yard target, that's a no brainer. You look for what's the catch?
Yeah, it's like me to hit targets at that range.
Yeah, that's right. That's
it's
just
like Matt and Kevin to hit targets with a 1,000 yards. 1,000 yards.
Exactly.
It's fast.
Well, that wasn't exactly trivial.
Oh no, I get it, man. That's ELR.
Yeah.
To me, ELR is not a distance. It's stretching the equipment well beyond its intended purpose.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's almost like shooting a needle into a haystack. Is that the saying goes? Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
You get what you mean.
What's wrong with that? Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the Apollo missions, man. Trying to put a man on the moon when there's, what do we need? Start from scratch and figure it out. Right?
Oh, the Apollo. Yeah.
That's a level of engineering.
All of their their computing power combined is less than, the crappiest phone available today.
Yeah. Do you remember the Palm Pilots?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The M1000 Palm Pilot that I had 3 times the computing power of the Apollo missions. What it didn't have was the teams of mathematicians, mostly women, who were doing the real calculations.
Yeah.
Numbers.
And as an American likes to point out to me, because we hack on him for not being metric, he's like, there's 2 kinds of countries in the world: those who use metric and those who've been to the moon. I'm like, okay, fair enough. They did that shit. Yeah, they did that shit in inches and miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I can't imagine how they did that.
I don't know if their space program is imperial. I do think their space program is metric.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm almost certain. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious now, actually, because I have seen drawings, and I don't know if they were final drawings, but I've seen actual NASA drawings, live documents that were in 60/4 and 30 seconds, and I think that's why I remember it. There's like 1/128th was one of the measurements.
Wow. One of the tolerances.
Yeah, and then they start getting down into the thousandths of an inch, but they break it down into a decimal system. But it was kind of insane to see these drawings and to find. But it relating it back to shooting is so many different things have been tried, and then it eventually comes back down into what works.
Yeah.
If you're a firearms historian, look at self-loading handguns in the World War I stage, plus or minus 20 years. It's total steampunk chaos for about 30 years until all the guns start to look like each other again. And it's I see that kind of happening in my experience in shooting is we tried a whole bunch of different things. I was involved in the early 90s with long-range 50 cal shooting, and it was dramatic and it was amazing because the distances we were hitting at and stuff. But it turns out it wasn't the best way to do things. 50 cal is still a thing, but it's the real distance. I mean, they're hitting out to 7,000 yards now.
That's crazy.
Predicted hits. They are to the point where their ballistic programs, they're going to start using actual artillery ballistic programs to do it. But that's, like a lot of success is having tried everything else first. It's neat to see things evolve and change, and with the advent of electro-optics, as more and more of our technology integrates, I predict eventually. This is my wonderful thought. We're all going to more likely look back at in 10 years and laugh about. But I predict we're going to see powered rifles. We're going to see the battery in the rifle.
All right,
and then we'll have a common hot shoe that our electro-optics hook to. Because right now, about a third the weight of electro-optics, whether it's a laser rangefinder or whatever, about a third of the weight is the battery. And if you put that above the axis of the rifle, it becomes wildly unstable. So by putting the battery down in the buttstock, low in the center of gravity where it belongs, and then having a standard connection, a standard hot shoe to connect the electro-optics, we're going to get to the point where laser range-finding binos hooked to our Kestrel that feed the point of aim directly into the scope of the Sig Sauer BDX program.
Yeah,
it's going to come. I just think I was talking to Trigicon and Sig Sauer at the 2019 SHOT Show, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not making the first move." nobody wants to be the beta instead of the
nobody wants to be that
VHS,
guy.
right? Yeah, nobody wants to be the
yeah.
first system that's developed for billions of dollars that fails. So
Yeah,
but it'll come. Yeah, but in the end, still got to be the same four fundamentals.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how much gear you get; it's still going to be the shooter that can hold the best.
It's awesome. We've got to find a way to get you out here, Ben.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I'm sure we can scrape up enough interest in guys. I know all the guys that are missing could use your help.
Well, you know what? Quite seriously, I'd like to have a shot at doing it. It would be awesome, of course, to come out and do it live, and that's always the best. But I'm interested in experimenting, like I said, with the this kind of stuff. This can be done in a cell phone. I mean, I've got a little fancier rig right now to make it nice, but what about remote coaching?
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Live remote coaching on the range.
Yeah.
It's entirely doable.
Yeah. The technology's there now.
Yeah. So are you, any of you thinking to make your way out here with CPRS or Maple Seed or any of that in the plans?
Not this year. Last year, I was actually this was right before COVID hit. I bought a plane ticket to go to the Calgary Stampede, and I was going to do one of the CRPSs that fell, or two actually, that fell within that week. Never happened. And this year, I don't know, vaccination this, you need a passport that, and whatever.
It's just a hassle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll be out there in September, Ben. I hope to get a chance to see you while I'm out there.
Absolutely. Will it be on your schedule? Or we can just
it'll be on the schedule. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a Wind and Kestrel course on the 4th of September.
Okay.
But, and then I've got the Pikachu Miles probably 20, whatever it is, third weekend of September.
Yeah.
But other than that,
we'll hook up.
So.
Yeah, I'll be in the Edmonton area for a week or so.
Oh, fabulous! Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll connect. Awesome. Yeah. It's been great having you on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben.
We dove into a lot of that. We just barely scratched the surface of what you cover at your courses, and I think it's if you guys haven't tried it out, it's definitely one of your bucket list items to hear what you've been missing. To hear why you've been missing.
100%, guys. Rick mentioned it earlier. The best thing you can do for the money, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, is buy the Secrets of Mental Marksmanship. It'll cost you about $60 by the time it arrives at your door. And the book is intentionally written with wide margins, so you can go through and write notes on the edge of the page, highlight, draw diagrams, and it's written in short sections. And each section has 4 stories: a competition story, a military, a police, and a hunting story. So it's always relevant.
Yeah.
And if you can just pick that book up, I mean, I waste so much time, either on Reddit or Facebook or whatever. If I could instead pick that book up and spend just 5 minutes reading one point and making notes about it, that was what will move me forward as a shooter. Even though I've read every point in that book, and I've heard every point in that book out of Keith's mouth and most of those stories before I even thought of writing a book, I still learn things every time I pick that up.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my final plug if you want to improve on yourself and as a shooter and as a person. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Any shout outs?
They happen to be my sponsors, but I'll also shout out the fabulous folks at EM Precision. They've made 2 of the finest firearms I've ever had the pleasure of shooting or using. Life is short, man. Treat yourself to a custom rifle, whatever it is. And if it happens to be in center fire, which is their forte, then definitely EM Precision is where I go. And the other course is always Milcon, which is Keith and Linda out there in Ontario.
Yep, for sure.
I wish we didn't have such a big damn country. I'd be out there.
I know. That's on my bucket list also. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But thank you very much, guys, to all of you. I'm going to make my journal notes here because I've learned a whole bunch of stuff. I just didn't want to be scrolling it down while we were talking. But
awesome.
Thank you all very much.
Perfect. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks,
Matt.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks to all our listeners. Yeah. Cheers.
Take care.
Catch up. Talk soon. Bye.
See ya.